mean?
In this video, we're going to talk to you about the differences and similarities between a soulmate, a twin flame, and a divine partnership.
So the first definition that we want to cover is a term that I'm sure everyone has probably heard at least once in their life or in some way, which is soulmate. This term has to do with relationships that you have had in a past life. So it's linked to a lot of different belief systems that believe in past lives or reincarnations of sorts. A soulmate is someone that you knew and that you loved in a past life, but it does not have to be romantically oriented. This can be a parent, a sibling, or even just a good friend. But it is centered around finding an immediate attraction to someone that maybe that you don't know super well in this earth, and you don't really know why. Many people believe in the concept of soulmates, and that is exactly the definition that they are coming from when they say something like a soulmate.
The next definition that we'll talk about is the twin flame. And what I will tell you is I'm certainly not an expert on a soulmate, a twin flame, or a divine partnership, so I did a lot of research myself, and I want to encourage you to also do some research because it's kind of fun. There's a lot of content out there, and one of the things we want to make sure is that you don't get confused or overwhelmed by all the content. And so what I've discovered is some fun stuff about what a twin flame is. The origins are vast. The origins of the twin flame concept span different faiths, cultures, religions, countries. So in Greek mythology, which is maybe one of the earlier references, Prometheus created humans, and he created us with 2 faces, 4 arms, 4 legs, and we were powerful, energetic, loving creatures. And Zeus was threatened by that, and so he cut us in half. And what I think is so interesting about that concept is that we were this double creation, and then we became 2 unique individual whole parts. And I think that's important as we continue to talk through these concepts. But at the core, if we boil it all down, what a twin flame really is that mirror of you. That mirror of who you are truly deep within your soul and who you were created to be. It is a mirror image of you. It's as if you are looking in the mirror. It's as if you know yourself in another person and you see you in them. The reason that a twin flame is put into our lives is to help us fulfill our divine purpose in this life. And so what is also important to understand is that it may or may not be romantic, it may or may not last, and you may not even be ready for it or recognize it when that relationship comes into your life. And so I think the important concept here is just to understand that just about everyone that we encounter is going to teach us a lesson and bring us into some new level of awareness, and that twin flame may just help accelerate and amplify that.
Just to add on to the twin flame idea as well, I did some of my own research on the topic. As similar to you, Stephanie, I didn't know really much of anything about these definitions. I had heard soulmate throughout my entire life, but the other 2 were completely unfamiliar with to me. And I would say a big difference between twin flames versus soulmates or life partners is it's believed that it's that your life purposes are very similar, and that involves a lot of conflict, but also a lot of passion. Because if you're essentially looking at someone in the mirror, if that's what it's supposed to be, if it's supposed to be that similar, you're going to love the good parts about yourself, but you're really not going to like the flaws. So this term might be used for a relationship that could be categorized as very, almost off and on at times, super passionate one moment, then super conflicting the next. And that moves us into our third definition, which is life partner. A life partner is a more romantically oriented relationship, and it is more focused on a steady, long-term relationship that usually results in marriage. Unlike the twin flame, it has passion, but it's not so sporadic and not so peppered with conflict. A life partner relationship might be a way of defining a super steady relationship between two people who've been married for 20 years and that don't have a huge issue of conflict in their lives. It's a very loving relationship, and it's very consistent throughout.
So I know my own personal journey of trying to figure out, who my soulmate is or who my divine partnership is, has revealed some things to me, and especially as I was researching these definitions, there were certain people who really popped up in my mind as perhaps meeting these definitions. And I want to preface what I'll say next with the idea that I'm not sure that these words matter as much as what the relationship brings to you and how you feel in that relationship. And we've talked in other videos about how to attract these kinds of people into your lives, so be sure to look at those. But for me, I believe that I met my soulmate just about 2 years ago when I was going through what I label my summer of tears. It was a really difficult time for me. I encountered so many stressful events. There were family members with health problems. I had my own health problems, and I had a very significant relationship in my life end, and it was with somebody who I thought was the one. And I was in a very depressed state, and I met this woman who is now a very dear friend of mine, and I believe that she was put in my life at that time in order to help me through the summer of tears. And I would consider her my soulmate because the minute we met each other, it was as if we'd known each other our whole lives. We had an instant connection. We could almost finish each other's sentences, and there was never any question in either of our minds about the love and acceptance that we had for each other. And that continues in our relationship today. And maybe she'll stay in my life, maybe she won't, I don't know. But what I do know is that I fully embrace that relationship, and I'm so grateful for it. And I think if I think about who a twin flame is in my life, it's my son. So again, we're not talking about romantic relationships here, at least in my experience. My son is teaching me more than I ever thought possible. And so why I think he's my twin flame is because he is my mirror image. We are so similar that it almost creates those head-butting experiences that you were talking about, Nicole. And he brings his own unique set of challenges just by him being who he is, and that's exactly why he was brought into my life and why we chose each other as mother and son. The lesson I'm intended to learn is to love more deeply and more fully and more wholly, to fully accept exactly who he is and for all of his challenges and all of his faults, because they're mine. And that means then I can more fully love myself in the process.
Yeah, I would say doing research on these topics was really enlightening. It was a really good experience to figure out, okay, like what exactly are these terms? Like I said, I've heard of soulmate kind of growing up throughout my life, but I had never heard of a twin flame or a life partner before. And I never knew that there was differences. I thought that these are all gonna be romantic things, but they're really not. They're just ways of defining people who are significant to you in your lives. And I think that it was a good experience learning these different terms, because it's enabled me to be able to look across different cultures about how they define it and how they interpret it. And some of these I wouldn't use on an everyday basis, or probably unless I was in that culture, but it helps me to understand that even though I might not agree with all of them, maybe I don't necessarily believe in every single one, it helps me to understand where someone else is coming from, which has been a huge gain as I've gone through this research. And just how I understand the people who are in my life, who are significant to me, who I love, and helps me to love them better.
So if you liked this video and found it helpful, please like and subscribe to find more content like this.
And we'll see you next time on the journey from isolation to community, where freedom waits beyond.